I'm Mark L. Madrid, and welcome to the second episode of Small Business is Big Business with Mark L. Madrid, and we're coming to you live from Texas State Capitol, Austin, Texas, and it's International Women's Day, and it's South by Southwest. It's happening right here. We have the beautiful Capitol right behind us. Twitter was founded just down the road here at South by Southwest, and we're here talking about solving the world's problems and making sure that small businesses, you all feel like you're a part of the world's most premier events. In this case, we're talking technology and AI and solving one of the nation's most prominent challenges, mental health. And of course, we're going to have a pioneer with us today. She is a force of nature, a national leader. She is breaking barriers, democratizing access to mental health, and she is one of us. She is a small business owner. I have the joy and honor of introducing Elizabeth Alegria.
Well, what an intro. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, Mark. I'm delighted.
Absolutely. And, I've talked about 2025 as being the year of uh, credibility,
Yeah.
then connection, and then visualization. So I want to talk about your credibility because she has credibility. She grew up without running water in South Texas and now has amassed 5 degrees. In fact, one of the joys that I have with you today is, Elizabeth, you're co-hosting an event here at South by Southwest with Ivy League, Columbia University Business School. But can you flash us back to where it all began? Because I know you're humbled and you're grounded. So tell us about where you're from.
Sure. So I'm actually from a small town called Laredo, Texas, and I actually grew up in a rural community called Peñitas Ranch. So it's the community that I grew up in literally was devoid of so many resources, including running water, electricity, and things that we would consider to be part of our normal everyday lives. So I certainly have lived those experiences, and I'm truly grateful because I still consider that to be one of the most important chapters of my life. And I'm grateful for all that I learned in that particular chapter, Mark.
And what gave you the passion to go into mental health?
That's a big question. I was actually a teacher. I was a biology teacher in San Antonio, Texas. And sadly, one of my students passed away. He died by suicide. And it was an event that really changed the rest of my life. And when that happened, I felt really undereducated when it came to the areas of mental health. So I decided to pack up my bags, move to New York City, enroll at Columbia University, and I pursued 2 graduate degrees there. And so that was, over a decade ago now, but it was an event that was prominent and really changed my life.
So you have the credibility. I think it's pronounced. And we talked about that 2%, right? In
Yes.
terms of Columbia University. Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. So the admission rate to Columbia University is actually quite small. There are many, many people that apply. And so I was one of the fortunate people that was admitted, and, truly can't talk enough about how monumental those educational experiences were for me and how they shaped my life. And I continue to be grateful. I feel like I pay it forward every day in regards to the things I learned at that particular institution.
How did your family feel when you graduated from Columbia University?
They were beyond themselves. I don't think they fully understood the grandeur of what that meant. My dad did. He's a very astute person. My mother is from Mexico. She's an immigrant, and so I had to sort of tell her about what is an Ivy League institution, what makes it unique, and all of those things. I mean, they were incredibly proud. I don't think anybody expected it, myself included, but it was an honor to be able to be there with my family on my graduation days.
And then, so you heard about just first of all, my thoughts with you about that suicide and how it affected you and how it influenced your path and Columbia. And then you became one of us, a small business owner.
That's right.
So let's flash back. Here's the connection part.
Sure.
Flash back to those keys that you had for Gramercy Clinic. And please tell us about Gramercy. And I'm interested in why you named it that. But flash back to when you were literally opening the door of your first clinic. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So I remember the day as though it was yesterday. I was excited, beyond excited, because I was leaning hard into the opportunity. I knew that first office space that we inhabited was going to be transformed into a place of healing for people. I consider Gramercy, my behavioral healthcare company, as a gift to the communities that we serve. And so I don't know. I think I have experience in turning tragedies into something that's very beautiful. And so I was able to take that suicide that was very close to me, and do something productive with it. I made the decision to take that moment and all the pain that was involved with that loss, the massive loss, and transform it into a gift of healing for the people that we serve. So, I mean, to go back to that day when I started my very first office, it's a very special day that stands out in my mind. I was 95% thrilled and excited and 5% terrified because
Okay, tell us about that terrified part.
because what if, all the things go through your mind, right? What if I go bankrupt? What if I can't find employees? What if I open the doors and I have no patients? All those things kind of go through your mind. But I didn't pay attention to those. I leaned hard into the fact that I had overcome adversity and challenges already, and that I trusted that I would be able to navigate this new path well. And I had people in my life telling me, is this really the right time? Is this the time you should be doing
What
this?
were they really saying?
Don't do it. Because I was going through a divorce. My baby was very small. And
How
so,
young?
oh gosh, he was almost 2. Yeah. So we're talking, still an infant. And I had to navigate all of that. But, I looked at all the variables and I decided to go for it. And I'm very grateful that I did, because we've served a lot of people and we brought a lot of healing to folks. So, it was a very, very special moment for me when I took those keys and opened that first clinic office.
So credibility and connection. The credibility part, though, because there's something that struck me when you talk to me about your experience at Bellevue Hospital. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I trained, as you know, Mark, I trained in the psychiatric unit of Bellevue Hospital. Bellevue Hospital is a premier psychiatric training institution. It's one of the best hospitals here in America to train at. And I was very fortunate that I was selected to train there. In my tenure there, I worked with immigrant populations. I worked with survivors of torture. I worked in a palliative care unit, and I worked with the dying. And so much learning happened in that particular chapter of my life. But what I've learned from those patients, and what I learned from really being invited into the most intimate spaces of other people suffering, are tools, their educational opportunities that I had, that I utilize today to move for our services to help serve people that are currently struggling.
That conviction drives you every day, right?
It sure does.
And it drives you to this moment where we're literally right here. You feel the excitement. Paramount Theater's right over there. They're about to do a premiere. The Capitol's behind us. There's all sorts of activity going there.
Yeah.
So here we are at South by Southwest, one of the premier technology conferences in the world.
That's
So
right.
if we had a billboard right here, right behind us, right in front of the Capitol,
Yeah.
that was involving your innovation, we're going to talk about that with AI and mental health and democratizing access. What would that billboard say?
That's a great question. The billboard would say, your mind is your most valuable asset. It is your job and your job alone to protect it, honor it, and cherish it.
I think I'm done. That's beautiful. And I mean, that just came across from the heart. I always say, servant heart, business mind, greater impact. You embody that. So let's talk about why you're here.
Yes.
You are a pioneer in the mental health industry. We were fortunate to be at the United Nations not only last year, but the year before, when you announced to the world that you were integrating AI into your entire business. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. So through our platform at mygramercycounseling.com, patients and users can log in. They can create an account. They can log in. They can connect with a real-time licensed professional counselor if they so desire. Alternatively, they also have the option to engage in self-help resources, many of them that are AI-driven. We in the healthcare space are definitely sensitive to the fact that we are experiencing a shortage in healthcare providers. And so we are turning to AI as an auxiliary resource to help supplement some of the healthcare services that we're wanting to promote, because we understand that there just isn't enough of us to meet the growing demands of the diverse needs of the diverse communities that we're serving, Mark.
I love that. So you operate from the need and solving the problem, but then let's talk about that engineering mind of yours, right?
Yeah.
Because you know it's a distinct opportunity. Can you tell us about just as a business owner, sometimes, and I have to practice what I preach. I say there's nothing like investing in yourself and your business. This didn't come cheap, did it?
It did not. It certainly did not. There was a lot of material effort that was
Y'all get
uh,
that material? Yeah.
there's a lot of material effort that was made in developing, designing this technology from scratch. And we were in a very fortunate position that we were able to work with technology partners that were expert in the space that helped us design and implement some of the features that I'm talking about. We're actually still testing many of the features that we're working on with those tech partners. So we're very fortunate to be in that position. But you're absolutely right; didn't come cheap. But we don't want to take the cheap route when it comes to people's healthcare. People deserve the best.
And your business, right? Because your
Absolutely.
business is building intergenerational wealth. I mean, your whole family is watching you thrive,
Yeah.
but they're also watching the realness of the challenges,
Oh
correct?
yeah. Yeah. They get to see it all the time, constantly. I'm incredibly fortunate that I have that support system that's embedded within my family because, truly, I mean, without them, I don't think I'd be standing before you today.
And let's talk real talk. You're pretty authentic, right?
Of course, a little too authentic sometimes.
A little too authentic, but don't you think that's what the world wants to see?
I think so. I think people could connect with your realness and, stories that come from the heart.
Well, let's talk about at the end of the day, we've talked about the heart, we've talked about the credibility, the connection. Let's get back to the business of AI technology, being here at the state capitol, being here where at the University of Texas at Austin, what starts here changes the
That's
world.
right.
And let's talk about the business of like reimbursements and all of that stuff. Can you
Yeah.
tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So reimbursements are always a challenge for providers. Unfortunately, we're seeing more and more providers move away from insurance utilization for good reason. I completely understand. I'm a provider myself. Insurance sometimes doesn't pay the rates that we expect and need. Additionally, we experience payment delays. We experience recoupments, which is so difficult because it's when an insurance company pays a provider for services rendered and then it recoups the money. So it sort of takes the money back. So as you can imagine, this is creating a massive divide between healthcare providers that take insurance and community members that have insurance that want to utilize their benefits. So it's creating a massive stressor between the haves and the have-nots, unfortunately.
And tell me about also Medicare and Medicaid, right? Because you've also researched that.
Absolutely. So, one of the main pillars that we have at our company is to ensure that our services are equitable and they're accessible to everyone that's in need. So, in an effort to really drive home that mission, our providers do accept Medicare and Medicaid. And the reason we do this is we want to ensure that our services are accessible to every person that is in need. But as you know, Medicaid and Medicare right now are under attack. At this time, we are very ambivalent and don't actually know what the future is going to look like for our members that are insured with Medicaid and Medicare. With everything that's happening in the administration at this time, it's something that's yet to be seen. So
And that's where I've seen small businesses, the first responders of the economy, the backbone of the economy, be, faster, be more nimble, be more innovative, and that's you. Let's talk about who is watching us right now. Small business owners.
yeah.
Potentially, you might be feeling some stress right now, a little bit of overwhelming. You might need some self care. Can you tell us your advice for those who are watching who might be struggling or challenged with something? I know we both are right now. We
Yeah.
talked about it just moments ago.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I think entrepreneurs, we're so good at being good at life. We're so good at problem solving. We're the ones that, people come to when there's an issue and a concern. The buck really stops with us. And it's because we're so good at problem solving, we're constantly sort of having to bear the demands that come with being in a leadership position. What some of us are not so good at is taking care of ourselves. So I would lovingly challenge my fellow entrepreneurs to sort of approach their mental health in a way that's similar to how they approached when they first started their businesses. When I first started my business, Mark, I consulted with a professional attorney. I hired legal counsel, and he helped me develop the legal structure of my company. I hired a financial expert. I hired bookkeepers, CPAs, and a CFO to help me.
That was at the very beginning.
Absolutely. Sort of lay down the financial infrastructure for my company so that I can make sure that it was, healthy along the way. So as entrepreneurs, we're so good at hiring professional help when we need it as it relates to our businesses, right? But we don't do such a great job of hiring professionals when we need assistance with our mental health. I think some of it's based in our own ego and pride. And I got to say, guys, when your ego wins, you lose. So I
wow.
highly,
Hashtag that.
encourage you, and I lovingly challenge you to really look at your mental health further, because it really is key. It is the foundation of everything you're doing.
Can you repeat that? When your egos?
When your ego wins, you lose.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm going to take that with me. Now, let's flash back to, if you can, just you talked about the suicide. So
Yeah.
bringing it back about what catalyzed you to be where you are today in terms of passion that drives your business, your innovation, but it comes down to the core that you believe in something strongly.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about another situation that really impacted you and said, this is my assignment?
Gosh, I mean, that's a great question. I think definitely working with the dying was one of the most important chapters of my life as a professional and as a human, as a person, because what I learned from the dying was so rich. They taught me that life is not guaranteed, and that death doesn't care. Death is the ultimate equalizer, and death comes for us all. So death doesn't care if you're rich, if you're poor, if you're attractive, if you're short, if you're tall, if you're educated. It doesn't care if you're a child, if you're an elderly person. Death is the ultimate equalizer. And that lesson really pushed me forward in a very courageous way. And subsequent to that training opportunity, I grappled with my own mortality in a very natural way. And I decided that going forward, I was going to be courageous and I was going to take the leap, because I prefer to fail 1,000 times. I prefer that than to live a life in fear, devoid of courage, never knowing who I actually am, never knowing what I'm actually capable of. And that's what we do at Gramercy. That is what we do. Not only do we inspire people, but we empower them so that they can transform their own lives with some of the, tools and nuggets that we pick up along the way as professionals. So I don't know if that's useful to anyone that's listening, but I encourage you all to live courageously and boldly, at every turn and every opportunity that you have.
So, Elizabeth, if there was one thing that our listeners could do to improve their own mental health, or maybe someone around them, a loved one, their employees, their peers, their friends, what would you suggest?
I mean, that's a big question, Mark, and I'm going to answer it honestly. I don't think people
Real
are going to
talk.
like what I have to
Real
say.
talk.
But again, this is based off of 18 plus years of practice experience. It's based off of research. I would encourage them to look at the quality of their relationships, and I'll tell you why. Research seems to indicate that the quality of your relationships is highly correlated to the quality of your life. In English, happy relationships, happy life. Bad relationships, you fill in the blank. So I would highly encourage them to look at the quality of their lives. And I understand why people don't want to do that sometimes. It's hard. It's uncomfortable. It might require change. It might require some painful and difficult conversations. But I'd argue that if you're not looking at the quality of your relationships, you're not being honest with yourself, and then you are sort of at risk of really aligning with the baseline of suffering. And so I gotta caution people against that, because again, life is limited and we all have a number of days here. So we deserve to live joyfully.
That hit me right here. But now I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yes.
Tell us about one of those situations in your life
Oh
to
my
to
goodness.
make it completely relatable.
Oh my goodness. Well, I didn't know we were going to go here, but we're here. So let's go. There was a time in my life where I really had to examine my own intimate relationship. And I had to make a decision. I was either going to continue going the way we were going, and we were going to continue the cycles and the patterns and the this way and the that way. And he was trying to convince me to go right. I was trying to convince him to go left. And that was sort of becoming our life. Or I could have chosen to sort of leave that relationship, reorient, reestablish my path and my journey. And I got to tell you, Mark, it was a gut-wrenching situation. It's something that I had to really reconcile with myself. It's still not something that's easy for me to look back on, but I'm so glad that I chose. And I chose the path that was authentic and it was honest and it was bold and was courageous. I left the relationship. And I stand here before you living high quality living, and hopeful that he is too, right? Because that's what this is all about. And I know that without question, that decision led me here. So it was a good decision. And I encourage everyone to move forward in their life boldly, courageously, and honestly, because at the end of the day, we have to face ourselves in the mirror. We're the ones that have to sort of shoulder the consequences of our decisions, of our action and our inaction. So, again, I just want to bring that realness here, because that's just the bottom line.
How does it feel being your own boss?
Liberated. I feel so free. I can do what I want, when I want, how I want, with who I want. I can be standing on the corner at South by Southwest with you, having a grand old time. So, it's the best.
Now, you heard it here. This is when you combine your passion, your assignment with your business, and always are an innovator, always investing in yourself and your business, taking care of yourself. I'm Mark Madrid with Small Business is Big Business, and we are here at South by Southwest on International Women's Day. Can you talk about being a woman entrepreneur in Austin, in Texas, in the U.S.?
Absolutely. It's a great time to be a woman entrepreneur in Austin and in the U.S. I got to tell you, here we are in 2025 at the precipice of so much opportunity. I'm sensitive to the fact that there's so much happening politically right now, but I encourage all people, particularly women who are in business or women who are thinking about going into business, to just go for it. It's your time to shine. The opportunity is always going to be greater than the challenge. So just go for it.
And that's why we do what we do. We want to bring you into our living room because small businesses should be in the biggest spaces in terms of the world's premier events. We started Small Business is Big Business with Mark L. Madrid at the Super Bowl in New Orleans, and now we're at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. So we look forward to this third episode. Elizabeth, thank you for being a force of nature, a force of good, and a force of innovation.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here.
We're signing off from Austin, Texas, live at South by Southwest.